Welcome to the Audiobook Lovin Podcast, discussing all things audiobooks, the narrators that perform them, and the authors that write the stories. Including a special series with Narrator Shane East, the Audiobook Lovin Podcast is brought to you by Viviana, Enchantress of Books. Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 12 of the Audiobook Lovin Podcast. I'm so excited to have narrator Emma Wilder here with us today. Hi, Emma. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to talk to you. But before we start on the chatting back and forth, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and when you started narrating?
Okay, well, about myself. So I started narrating probably about 6 years ago. I, before that, did a lot of onstage acting for about a decade. I went to a conservatory program for acting right after I graduated from college. And I loved it. I did a lot of Shakespeare. I love stage acting, but it is not an amazing way to make a living. So I had, this ends up being like a really, really sort of involved story. So sorry, but I trained dogs as my day job when I was an actor. And one of the dogs I trained was the dog of Ira Glass, host of PRI's This American Life. And so he needed someone to do a voice on his show. And he was like, oh, she's an actor, have her come in and audition for it. So I did that. And it was awesome. And I liked it. And so I took a class with Johnny Heller, who's an audiobook narrator, just to sort of see, like, is this something I could do? And it was. And it went really well. So I made a little home studio, started recording, and just sort of worked my way up from there. And I record as Emma Wilder for romance and as my other name for non-romance. So
cool.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
Is that good enough? I don't know.
That's awesome. No, that's awesome. And I kind of wish, like you were saying about, that you were asked to do this, to do the recording. And I'm like, I really wish that they at school, like when we're in high school, that they would tell us that there's these, gigs that you can get as a, reading stories, like being a narrator or graphic art designer or, book cover and, all that fun stuff that you should just kind of gear us towards, doctor and lawyers.
Sure. And also, yeah, I totally agree. And I think it's looking at art as a potentially monetizable choice is important, right? As opposed to just like art and then the thing that you'll do for real. And even at acting schools, like conservatory programs, there's all this focus on the artistry of it. And there isn't, or at least wasn't when I went, a ton of focus on like, okay, but really, how are you going to make money doing this? Like, how are you going to make a life in this, as opposed to just, practice the big roles in Shakespeare that you'll get, maybe twice in your life. And I think they're doing a little bit better at that in terms of teaching people not just the craft, but also the business and what opportunities are out there. I think it's good. But good. Yeah, I never imagined that I'd be able to support myself on my art like this career has allowed me to. It's incredible. It's so good.
Now, I know that a lot of the narrators have an acting background, and that has helped because there's almost like I could say there's almost two types of audiobooks. One where the narrator talks and definitely just reads it to you, and then the other one where it's performed for you.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that I can do the listen because, someone just wants to talk. Okay, fine. I want the story. But I really do love it when you guys perform.
Yeah.
And,
it's so more fun for me. But even just read, I mean, for I do a lot of nonfiction too. Under my real name, which I'll just say because I'm being weird and coy about it, but under Sarah Malo Christensen. I don't love to connect those in print on the internet, but within the romance community, I'm totally fine about people knowing my actual name. I just don't want, Joe Schmo, who I went to high school with, to be like, oh, I wonder what she's doing, and then find me reading dirty stuff and tell everyone about it. In the community, all good. But I do a lot of nonfiction, and nonfiction is just reading the story, but there's a difference between just reading and reading it like you wrote it and you care. Do you know what I mean? Like it's still acting to communicate information in a way that's compelling. It's just not the old-fashioned audiobook, which is literally just like someone with a beautiful voice reading aloud.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, the whole industry's changed a ton. But yeah,
Yeah.
I like performing. I like doing voices and accents, and uh, it makes it exciting.
It does. Well, we love hearing it. I think at this point I'm almost like 100% at this point audiobook.
Really?
And yeah, it's just a life is busy, and I much rather listen to you on my car stereo
Yeah.
versus the latest who's taking what's clothes off in the station
The
songs and stuff
news.
like
Yeah,
that.
the
Yeah,
news
and the
is a little
news.
depressing.
Yeah, that or even some of the songs, I'm like, what did they just say? And not
It's
because
funny.
of the language or anything, just because they don't understand it because they're going so fast,
Mhm.
and stuff like that. But yeah, I'd much rather listen to you guys.
It's funny how often, I'm sure I'm not the only person who does this, but how often, because, I don't have a ton of time to pleasure read, but I read so much because I prep all these books before I record them. And like an embarrassing percentage of the time, I'm like, oh, I don't have time to read. Maybe I could let me see if there's an audiobook of it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, no, dummy, there's not an audiobook of it. You're going to record the audiobook of it. You have to read it with your eyes first. You can't listen to it while you're cleaning your apartment because you are the person doing it.
Yeah, and you can't
Um,
record while you're cleaning, so that's
Unfortunately, no. Or fortunately, yeah.
yeah.
It doesn't work that well.
No, I mean, I'm all for multitasking when you can, but that
Mhm.
may not be one of them.
It's a good excuse for having a dirty apartment. I'll use
Yeah.
that in the future.
Yeah. Or to get people to come over and clean it. I know I said that to some authors. I go, I will cook for you. I will go over and cook and clean if that means I get the story, at
That
a
much
nice rate.
faster.
Yeah. And then I kind of go like, you know what? It's different too because I don't ever want to get a story that's completely rushed because I can tell.
Mhm. Yeah,
I much rather wait, whether it's a few weeks or a few months or even a year, for have the author to get it right
I agree.
versus giving me something half-assed.
Mhm.
And
And
it's
there's such a pull between having to keep putting out books to keep people interested and keep making money, and then making sure each one's as good as you can make it. So I'm sure
mhm.
that's a tough balance for everybody, for
Yeah,
any artist.
but it's similar to when it comes down to the audiobooks about hiring the right narrator. Now,
Mhm.
I'm all about, you get what you pay for.
Yeah,
And you guys, as with any other industry, have a wage and have a fee. And, if I want, Emma Wilder or any of the other ones that I want, for an example, that means I'm going to start saving my pennies now
$1
for a book.
million. That's what
Yes.
it costs.
Yeah. But I much rather have them save the pennies and I'll wait for that audiobook to get the right narrator versus someone that I'm like, dude, did you record this in the bathroom?
Totally. Or not putting it into audio if it's not ready and you don't, like
Yeah.
there's not every book needs to be an audio, only books that authors can make money off of in audio,
Yes.
or that they just have such passion for that they want to put it out regardless of whether it's going to pay off financially or not. But like uh audio is a big investment. It's
Hmm.
huge because you got to pay a lot of different people to get an audiobook made, and it adds up.
It does. Um, I think you mentioned in a previous interview that you also do that you're also producer and you produce some of the audiobooks.
I do. Yeah, I produce for some indie authors. I don't do it as much as I did in the beginning, just because, as you may know, producing is like a huge job. Like that's a big responsibility to be the person who, particularly for romance, the person who liaises with the author and then gets the guy and puts the guy in a studio if he has to be in a studio, and then gets a engineer to do all the post and the mastering and a proofer, and it's like a lot to be the person the buck stops with, you know. So it's a big. So I produce. I narrate for Rosalind James a lot, and I produce for her, and for a few other authors as well. But I try to not overcommit with producing because when I take it really seriously, and I don't want to screw it up.
Yeah, but I was going to ask you what exactly that more or less entail because I've seen in the topic come up and I've heard it and it's like, yeah, I'm a producer. And I'm like, but babe, what does that mean?
Yeah,
For those
I
that are
mean,
not in the industry or just are coming into it, like what does specifically being a producer for an audiobook mean?
yeah. Well, what it means is, so the author reaches out to you. If say, just for our purposes, that it's a dual POV, because
Hmm.
that's what so many of them are. So if they want you, that's great. Then you help them cast the guy, and then you schedule when everybody is going to record, and then you maybe have to put the guy in a studio because some of the guys don't have their own studios, and that's expensive, and you have to schedule that. And then you find your post-production person. So I always use the same wonderful editor for mine because she's awesome. So I have to schedule her and make sure she can edit it, and then she gets a proofer or proofs it herself. And then we have to have dates for, okay, when is the QC pack going to come back? So that's with corrections. When do I get it back to her? When is she going to get the mastered MP3s to me to give to the author? The author listens, and then you upload via ACX or a number of other platforms that allow authors to, publish their audio. But it's basically a lot of emailing.
And
It's
coordinating,
it's project management. So it's hard to, the reason I don't do a ton of it is because it's hard to charge enough to make that worth it for me. Like I probably could make more during that time narrating, but it's great to have eggs in multiple baskets, right? So you're not only narrating. And then also it's great to shepherd a project you really care about, like from soup to nuts. It's fun being in charge. And it's fun being in charge of something you really believe in, So it's kind of a bigger job. There's always a point during each one where I'm like, oh, I'm not going to do this again. So much work. I don't want to be wrangling these dudes and when are you going to be in the studio? It's a lot, but it's really satisfying. And I love being able to help authors sort of bring that vision to life, and be the person sort of smoothing that road for them and making it happen. But I'm also kind of a control freak. So that's why I like it.
Oh, well, that's good to know again, because I think people have asked exactly, and I'm like, well, I know that they do this, but I wasn't exactly sure how. It's almost like an orchestra. You guys are coordinating all this stuff together.
Yeah. And there's a lot of subcontractors that's just too boring to talk about. I think once Andy Arndt maybe wrote a piece, an essay or something about all the steps. I don't know.
Yeah,
if you want, I can look for it later. But there's there are good resources online if authors are ever why does it cost so much? What is this even?
Oh yeah, I've directed them to some of the stuff that you guys have done under the Romance Narrators.
Oh yeah.
Boutique, that you're part of. Because it's a lot of information, and it's something definitely that I've always advised that I suggest it, and I say it's a good investment, but it's because of the cost that you have to be smart about it and know the ins and outs and the whys.
Yeah, and pick a producer who you really trust.
Yes.
Because you don't, a narrating is one task and producing is another. And you want somebody who's good at both, or just find a producer separate from that, but it's a lot to give your baby to someone and be like, here's a bunch of money if you can make this my fantasy.
Make it all work. Make it pretty.
Yeah. Make it pretty. I've been watching too much HGTV lately, and that just made me. Do you ever watch the show Hometown on HGTV?
Not that one. I've watched the Twin Brothers.
The Property Brothers.
The Property Brothers here and there, and I've tried to. I tend to go more for the food shows.
Oh yeah,
because of my background in culinary arts. And
I didn't know that.
And at the same time, I see all this pretty stuff that they're doing in the houses, and I'm like, oh, that was a good in mine.
There's some good kitchens.
Yes,
see a lot of good kitchens.
I know, and I'm like, oh, and then I see the dollar signs floating all over the place.
But I've never owned a home. We talk about how audiobooks are an investment. They are, but nobody's getting super rich doing them. Someday I'd love to own a home, but I have watched so much HGTV that even I know that those numbers aren't right. There's no way you can renovate your whole kitchen for $15,000. A bathroom costs $30,000, right? Come on, I won't be fooled.
Not only that, but I also want to know, because in some of the ones that I've seen that are from the different shows, they're looking for houses that are at least $500,000. $3 million is the highest that they'll go. And I'm like, where do you work?
I know. And they're always like, I'm a preschool teacher and he's a ceramic artist. And we have 5 children and our budget is $1.2 million. And it's like, what the fuck?
I was like, great. No.
Yeah. Maybe I should get into preschool teaching. Yeah.
No.
But yeah, no, I couldn't. I'm not strong enough.
Yeah. Not only that, but also it's definitely not a paying. I mean, and I did some research on, teaching, and just, the highest pay for a teacher, and this is just like out of college, first entry level, is $83,000 and some
Mhm.
change in Alaska,
Yeah, because no one wants to go there.
basically.
Yeah, my little sister was a high school teacher for a while, and like, no thanks, man. It's too
Mhm.
hard.
Yeah,
It's
no,
too hard.
it is. Um, but a lot of it. So you watch those TV
Oh
shows,
yeah,
and
I
are you
watch
get?
only those shows. I'm like so troubled by the state of the world, and I
Mhm.
like read fiction all day for work. And at the end of the day, I just want to like look at pretty stuff where like everybody's fine. um, but anyway, I love that particular show, Hometown, and they have these like wonderful um, accents, and she always talks about making it pretty. So
Mm.
anyway,
That's good, though.
anyway,
But that's good though. It's one of those things that we all look to do from some unwinding when it comes down to day-to-day
totally,
stuff. You touched
totally.
on the subject a little earlier about prepping a book. So what is your
hmm
process for when you got the gig? How do you prep for it?
So at this point, I just read it. I make a list of the characters and anything that I really need to know, like anything it says in the text about their voice, like accent or like high, low, gravelly, whatever. And I write down any words or places that I need to look up how to say. In the beginning, when I started doing this job, I'd like highlight all the different characters in different colors and like make a bunch of notes for myself in the script about how to say different things. And I just have let that pretty much all go. So at this point, I just read it and then I read it out loud. Something like nonfiction, there's tons of research involved because like there'll be words you don't know how to say and place names and things like that. Um, Also, like I do for Rosalind James, a couple series set in New Zealand. So there's always words there that I need to look up, how to say place names, character names, stuff like that. But I don't do a ton of marking up the script or anything like that. I just kind of read it to see what the story is and who all the people are, and then I just go.
That's good. Yeah, I think you get into a flow after a while of doing it for so many years. You might get it like you have a
Yeah,
system, you
you
know?
trust yourself a little more.
Yeah. I know that when I start any project, I'm like color coding. People love my Excel spreadsheets. Um, color coding, all this bold, this means that. It's fun time,
hmm
but are you completely electronic when it comes down to that prepping, or do you do like old school and paper when you
No,
started?
I am. Yeah, it's all on my iPad. On my iPad.
Good, that's good. Good for the environment.
Yeah, and they don't send us books anyway. It's not a choice. I guess I could print it out. I don't have a printer.
Hmm.
So I don't have a printer. There's no way. It's impossible.
Sometimes that's a good thing, getting that stuff out of there,
Yeah.
not to be able to use it. So when it comes down to selecting the tones and how the characters are going to sound, besides the fact when the character says, oh, in his deep gravelly voice, how do you
Right.
choose what they're going to sound? I mean, those, like I said, this how they're going to sound, or their tones and stuff.
I think just from reading the script and being what they're like, you know? Like I don't really know how to describe it better than that. But I was talking to a producer today actually, because an author had given some notes about how she wanted the characters to sound, and we were talking about how it's so much more helpful to get notes from authors that are about that are like playable for an actor. Like he's young, he's a little naive, he's really sensitive, is so much more uh, achievable than like his voice is high or low or like anything sort of specific to how it sounds as opposed to like who he is.
Hmm.
Um, so I look for like who these characters are, and if there's a friend who seems really like cheery and perky, like always sort of like being a cheerleader for the heroine, like maybe I'll give her like a higher voice where she's sort of like cheery and just like trying to get her going, like things like that. Or if there's someone who's really sarcastic, maybe I'll give her sort of like a more gravelly, like, you know, but I think I just make those choices based on how the people strike me when I'm reading the book. And some more sort of like nuts and bolts decisions like, okay, these two guys are in a bunch of scenes together, so it would be helpful if one of their voices was like significantly higher than the other just so I can differentiate them.
Mhm.
But that's sort of the boring, non-artistic choices.
Well, I think
Oh,
it's
there's like 6 alpha brothers and they're all 6'3". Damn it. Like, what am I going to do?
well, we do have a type in romance where, they're either the alpha or the nice alpha, or they're the alpha.
So the alpha or the alpha also. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when it comes down to that descriptive, it's always like, I see the reviews and I'm like, I want to say, oh, his baritone voice or the growliness. I'm going, I don't know how to characterize some of the voices that you guys do. And I'm
Yeah.
just, it's just one of those where he sounded really nice or really sexy and he did a good job. Very convincing. But it must be, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, it's unless you know in advance that perky cheated a friend in book 1 that you're going to make sound like this is also going to be the heroine in book 3.
I know that's a danger, but I think I think two things about that. One is like that's a good reason not to go too crazy with character voices because like particularly in series like they'll come back and get you.
Yeah.
And in contemporary romance, there's not that big of a danger. There's more in like fantasy where you're like, oh, he's just like a grouchy troll who's in one scene. So you give him a voice like this. And then the third book, he's the hero. And you're like, God damn it. What? Like, oh no, that's terrible. But I think, like in contemporary romance, they don't want cartoony voices anyway,
Yeah.
But also, I think listeners sort of understand that if you're doing the whole, you're playing all the heroines, they're all going to sound kind of like you. I think people want your authentic voice, which color, add variety to, but at the end of the day, like, you want to read the book as you because that's how your heart will come through it and people will feel like you're speaking, you're a real person telling them that. So I think people give you a little leeway in if the best friend is perkier in book 1 and then just has her voice in book 2, it's better. Oh, it says my internet connection is unstable.
No.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
it's
you.
Unstable.
Well, who is
alert?
Oh, technology.
Oof.
Yeah. Well, and just let me know if that ends up, going worse
Nope.
or not. But
yeah, no, it's fine. Just if you can't hear me, obviously.
Yeah, it's kind of
Give me
coming in and
that.
out a little bit. But when I think about it, when it comes down to the different voices, a couple of us were talking about, one person in the group was like, oh, they sounded so different. And I'm like, listen, how I hear myself talk, I sound great. I think I sound good. And then I hear myself recorded, on a phone or something. And I'm going, oh my God, that fucking sucks.
Everybody does that.
Yeah. So that's how I kind of take it, where if her and best friend, I'm just listening to her from the outside. And so when it comes down to
interesting.
3, then I'll think of her as coming in from the inside, kind of thought process. Yeah.
I can see that. And again, I think as long as the author has written them as different people, you sound different when you're being them because they have different attitudes and energies. I think ultimately it's more helpful to focus on that, like playing the person who's there rather than kind of going from the inside out rather than the outside in and thinking about what they sound like and less about who they are.
Yeah. And we all sound, we all act differently among our friends and they don't see it.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So it's
Totally.
kind of like how I take it. We were also briefly talked about, you brought up accents and stuff. And we all are suckers for them. We all have our favorites. Which is your favorite to perform?
Oh, New Zealand. No question.
Is there a particular reason why that's your favorite?
No, I just love it. It's so like twangy and bouncy in your mouth. There's no reason. I just let it feels in my mouth.
That's good. So on the opposite spectrum, what is the hardest to perform for you?
Oh, I don't know. I would say something new. Like it just takes me a little bit to get into a new thing. Like I'm doing I'm about to, next week, I have to record a book with Shane East for uh, Anna Durand
Oh,
called
yeah, that's right.
Lethal in a Kilt. And so it's Scottish, which I know, but need to like get back into that world. So this weekend I'm gonna like watch some Scottish movies and get in the flow. But I think, yeah, the hardest accent for me is just one that I haven't been doing lately. um, you really get in a zone with them, and then when they're done, they're kind of gone, and you have to work your way back in when it's time.
Yeah. You did a French accent in Overnight Service,
I
right? With Lauren
did.
Blakely.
Yeah, I did a little bit, just a tiny bit, not
Yeah.
very much. Yeah,
Hmm.
I took French from 6th grade to 12th grade, so
Wow.
glad it's paying off.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a fun one to listen to.
Oh, I loved recording that book. The Lauren Blakely multicasts have been some of the
Yeah.
most fun I've had as a narrator ever, period. Like,
Hmm.
it's just incredible. It's incredible to be in a room with all your friends doing, and she's such a good, fun writer. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's like emotional, but not like, uh,
Dark.
yeah, yeah,
Dark, dark.
exactly. I was
Dark.
trying to think of a nice way to say it. Like, yeah, because some books are really emotional, but like you come out of the booth and you're like, Jesus, I need like a
I mean, rainbow.
giant
Yeah.
whiskey. Yeah, like I need to lie down.
Yeah.
And her books, you like feel them in your gut, but they're in a pleasurable way.
Yeah.
Um, and not that really dark books aren't also pleasurable, just to perform them really takes a toll, I think. Um, it's different than listening to them because you really have to go there and
Yeah.
feel all those feelings. And like when they're really dark, like, ugh, it's a lot, it's like performing a tragedy of a play where it's like you do it and you honor it and then you go home and you like watch silly TV and take care of yourself because you need to like refuel.
Hmm.
But yeah, Lauren's books are emotional and fun and just like a blast. And she is such a powerhouse and a delight that it feels good to work for her because she just does so much good and is such a good force in the industry. And
Yeah.
personally, like a good force for me. Like I feel like I have so much to thank her for in terms of um, my career at the moment. So
Yeah.
I love her.
Yeah, no, she's definitely a comfort read for me. And
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what I have listening to, if I know that her book is coming out, either I'll hold to start a new one until that one comes out, or I will stop in mid of book to turn to and
Ooh,
seek and hear a Lauren Blakely. But it's not my fault. She's that good.
I know.
Um,
What are you gonna do? And you
yeah.
feel like, and I feel this way about some filmmakers too. Like, she'll take care of you,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Mhm.
I think that's so important to me with an author or a filmmaker. Like, there's some where they're like gonna take some pleasure in making you uncomfortable,
Mhm.
and you don't know if they're gonna like hold your hand at the end. And with
Yeah.
her, you know that like, yeah, it might get a little rough, but like she's got you. Like
Yeah.
it'll be okay.
Yeah, and she's been very innovating, and that's something too that I think
Yeah.
when it comes down to these multicast, listening originally was, single narrator, then it became dual narration, and then a
Mhm.
duet, and I'm like, ooh, I like it. And
Yeah.
now there's sometimes where I'm listening to some books, and I'm like, this would have done so much well if it was a multicast. Um, it's like, Lauren, you have, completely ruined
She's
me.
she's cracked things open.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's definitely,
Disrupted, as
yeah,
tech people would say.
yeah, okay, cool. I'm not going to borrow that one.
Isn't
Um,
that what isn't that like, I mean, at this point it's probably kind of dated, but isn't that sort of a Silicon Valley thing to say like, yeah, like man, like we're like here to like disrupt the industry, Like we just want to turn on its head, we want to disrupt it, which is just sort of like bullshit, means nothing, but also I feel like she's sort of broken things open.
yeah. And
That
I
was
love how
my
you just
Silicon Valley
automatically,
tech
yeah,
bro
I was
voice.
gonna be like, and I was like, yeah, tell me more. Um, well, you have one of these voices that, again, for me, besides saying, she has a very sexy voice, she has a very husky, sexy voice, you know, to categorize you besides, sexy, you also have
Which
this,
is hilarious to me. It's like, I don't think of myself as sexy.
yeah. But you have this tone and this range, and it's a little bit of a lower range that maybe more people are used to when it comes down to female narrators.
Maybe. Yeah.
maybe. But you just have this tone, and then the way that you do the cadence when you narrate,
Hmm.
even though they're different characters, I'm like, that's an Emma book, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, my tells. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's to me, it's just a breath of fresh air, because
Oh, nice.
sometimes you get a lot of the same narrators, and I love them all. I love you guys. Love you guys. I'm gonna start with that.
And now say the mean thing. Yeah,
No,
go
it's
on.
not gonna say the mean thing. But a girl likes a little bit of variety sometimes.
Yeah, and everybody definitely has their own patterns, right? Like
Yes.
we all do, and we all have the things that we like. Literally everyone does, and that's why SNL can do impressions, right? Because there's
Mhm,
things in the way all of us speak that someone can latch onto and copy or be driven crazy by if they listen to too much of us. Like everyone has their little signature ways of speaking.
mhm.
And so variety is good because too much of anything makes you sick.
Yeah. I just, kind of like doing like how the difference tones, or how the performance is done differently, or again, just like the inner ear thing when you're hearing the same voice over and over again. And especially sometimes the whole getting confused, because especially when it's in a series and it's a different couple. So I'm one of those people. I don't mind if you change narrators if it's a different couple.
Hmm.
But sometimes when they use the same narrator, or the same one female narrator, and they change the guys, and I'm like, well, wait, but weren't you like Jessica from book 1? How can you be Priscilla in book 3? And
It's the
there's a slight difference, you know?
magic
So
of the theater.
I know.
Suspend your disbelief. Yeah, I think some people, I mean, people just have different. Some people get upset if you change narrators in the middle of a series, even for a new couple. People just have
Yeah,
different preferences.
yeah.
Listeners get upset no matter what. Like, oof. As a narrator, if you take over a series from a beloved narrator,
Oh.
like, don't look at Audible because it won't be nice. Like people fear and loathe change, but also want it at the same time. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I
um,
always feel bad sometimes for them, not because they're not good. And sometimes there's been situations where the new narrator is actually better than the original one.
mhm.
But the fans just love it. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah, it's funny.
okay.
Oh, I went to Erin Mallon wrote a play about audiobook narrators that I went to a reading of this weekend, and it was awesome. And Andy read the stage directions. This sounds like I'm telling you about a dream I had. Erin wrote a play and Andy Arndt was there and she read
Yeah.
the stage directions. But it really happened, I swear to God. And one of the things in it was the female narrator in the play uh, took over a series and then read some of the reviews and they were scathing, which is just funny and real in life. What are you going to do?
hmm So she wrote a play on that. Is it out
Hmm.
already, or is it
It
still in
was just
production?
just a reading. So
Oh,
I,
okay.
I don't know if she'll produce it further than that, but it was awesome.
Yeah.
She's
I
great. I love her.
yeah. I kind of do like it when they do these books where, yeah, he's a handyman, but they just don't gloss over the role of being a handyman, for example. They kind of get into it, where
Oh
they're
yeah.
showing you a little bit more of the ins and outs of like the backstage or behind the scenes.
Mhm. You
So
do like that or you don't? You
I
do?
do, I do,
Yeah.
because it's just one of those where if you're telling me that he's a handyman, she's never going to go see him at his job, or he's not going to want to fix something to prove that he's a handyman. You know, there's a leak in the faucet, dude. Come on.
Just like, "So, what is the best way to smooth out caulking around a tub?" Actually, if you use an ice cube. Yeah, I feel like it's easy to get bogged down in the weeds there. I always wonder
Yeah.
if that's why authors write so much about hockey, because many listeners don't know enough about hockey to, like,
Oh,
want the detail, to get tangled up in details. Do you know what I mean? If
true.
people are like, "It's a sport.
Yeah.
It's on the ice. The guys are really hot."
Yeah.
Um,
They're going from the left to the right.
yeah, but I do wonder if I love the hockey books. I'm doing one of them right now, actually, and I
Mhm.
have another one in the spring for a different author. But I always wondered if, because it's weird that hockey would be so popular in romance, right? Like,
Yeah, I think
what a random choice. Like, why not football or
because it's
basketball or
been done. Because it's been done. I
has
think
it?
what it is when it comes down to hockey, it's one of those where we have more where it's no longer just in Canada, for an example.
Right.
It's now going. I mean, even here in Florida, we have a hockey team.
Sure.
Don't ask me what the
So do you follow them, Viviana?
So from my perspective, one of my dear friends at work, she loves hockey. I mean, she grew up watching it. She's from Jersey originally. And her, she's a huge, but she's what I call like an authentic fan. It doesn't matter if they're winning or losing. She's still going to love on them.
She's true. Yeah.
She's a true fan. And so when I came to her and I'm like, dude, I'm reading this book. And she goes, uh-huh. And I go, and it's about hockey players. And she goes, oh, really? So
now you have my attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it actually kind of happened the opposite. I sort of kind of started getting into hockey. I'm not totally like quite there, but I started learning like, oh, there's these teams and then these different things. And she's been kind of teaching me a little bit about it and stuff like that. So it's just one of those where I'm going, okay. And then more and more, because again, social media, certain particular players in the hockey team can be very particular, pretty to the eyes.
Yes. I was wondering if that was perhaps the quality with which you selected the players. Yeah.
Yes. I know, right?
Your fantasy team is not based on skill per se or likelihood to win games. It's just a fantasy team. Yeah.
You know what? That gives me an idea, though. It gives me an idea to do like a little game, like, okay, pick your fantasy hockey players.
Or someone should write about, there needs to be more like there's golden puns to be mined in fantasy sports.
Yeah. So that was also fun. I mean, I think, like I said, football's been done before, baseball as well. And it's just hockey is just something that's kind of coming out of not the woodworks, but it was just always there. But now people are more aware.
People know about it. And the guys are sexy. Like, they have to be really fit.
They do.
And it's like it's a kind of team where you can imagine, a kind of sport where you can imagine a lot of alpha heroes being, as opposed to like golf. Not that there aren't hotties in golf, but just not the same like virility.
Yeah, and especially when it comes down to the narrator of the game, and then he was going to do it,
Right. He's setting up his swing. He's selecting a different. Oh, yeah. Okay, he's setting up. Yeah, it doesn't have the same sexiness.
No. Unless they have someone where it's completely out their character that has been made to be the narrator of that game, and she's like, "Oh, look, he's stroking his club."
It could be done. A sexy golf romance could totally be done.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing. You made me smile and laugh because when you're talking about how detailed oriented it has to be when it comes down to some of these professions, like the whole caulking thing, I would have been that girl that'd been like, ha, caulking.
I know. I realized the second I said it, but actually,
that's I know how to fix that one.
It's like a tip that I was interested in recently, where I was like, oh, because I'm trying to like fix my rental bathroom, and I was like watching videos on how to fix bathrooms. And did you know that using an ice cube is a great way to smooth out the caulk around a tub? Now you know.
No,
next time you're working with caulk, Viviana, use ice cubes. Definitely. There you go. There's your sound bite.
I love you.
I love you too.
Goodness. I was so excited because we actually met in person back in March of 2019 because we went to a Polycon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's something too that I'm loving as of late, the narrators coming out of the booth and into our events and stuff like that.
It's fun for us.
Yeah, how has it been?
Really fun.
Yeah.
I mean, excuse me. I think it's a different experience for female narrators and male narrators, right? Like, because the male narrators are like sex objects, and we're like your friends. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think they get a lot more attention, but it's a different kind of attention. And that's been interesting to notice. But for us, it's just a blast because this job is so lonely. Like, it's so fucking lonely. and like, you don't, if you're bold, you can go read your Audible reviews and you have really thick skin and some people will say nice things, but really you don't get a lot of feedback on like, is anyone out there? Like, am I just talking to myself? And so it's nice to be reminded that like, oh yeah, like what I'm doing is one small part of this incredible, vibrant community, and people love it. And like, it's really energizing on a day when you're like dragging and need to get in the booth to remember like you met real people and like they really listen to this and are looking forward to it. And it's like that's a great connection. And then it's also just great because, you know, most of us are really good friends with each other and we don't get to see each other that much.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's such a treat to like Vegas this past fall was just like a party. It was like all my friends went to a party. It was so fun to hang out with like Zach and Andrew Ryden and like Ava Erickson, all those people. It was just a blast. So it's like, and you guys too, right? Like I met you at PolyCon and then I met Felicia a couple years ago at the Audies and so like you guys have become real friends. So that's the only time we really get to see you guys. So it's like doubly great because it's just a vacation where you see your friends. And then it's also a reminder of the power of what we're part of and how much it means to people.
Yeah. I think it's because of the social media that we've been having and we are able to access things a little bit easier. Not that that's always a good thing, but I love that you guys are, you know, being more, I want to say social, but you're just being more involved in the community when it comes down to the listeners. And I think it's always kind of cool that for example, if I'm listening to one of your books and stuff, and I can just either send you a text and I am on Facebook and go, oh my God, you so rock on this. And I know that not everybody gets to do that, but the events is an opportunity to show the love. And you guys are signing all different types of things. Was there anything that you were like, oh, you want me to sign this?
No, maybe the guys get those. I don't know. I think that's more for the dudes. But I don't think they were weirded out by anyone. Because I think they would have told me.
Did you sign the caulk? No.
Right. No, the Sharpie just like doesn't really stick that well on penises. So it was impossible. I tried. Should have been hard. No, I didn't do that.
There's actually swag of a penis. That's why, you know, I forgot the name of the author, but she has penis swag. You can make anything to swag nowadays. If it can be written on it, you can use it as a swag. I brought a pillow, people. Okay.
Yeah. How like wholesome.
Yeah. No, not so much, girl.
Yeah, I can think of a lot of things you can do with a pillow. Actually.
Yeah, I know exactly. But it's an interesting point that you bring up regarding the difference on the female narrators and the male narrators. Now, as a listener, we love your voices and we use our imagination, especially when the descriptiveness is this, you know, using the ladies, you know, like this, she's curvaceous, she's funny, and you know, she's gorgeous and blah, blah, blah. So we can kind of envision it. And then the same thing for the guys. Now, we obviously tend to focus more on them. God, they sound so hot because just how people are. It's natural. But I would think I would be a bit concerned about the matching of like, this is how I imagine a certain person to sound like, this is how I imagine certain people to sound like. I'd be nervous. Like, I give good phone. Okay. I give really good phone. I would much rather talk to someone, especially with customer service, and I'm like, okay, good. And I can give you the good phone. But when it comes out to being in person, I'm like, maybe they, you know, I'm a little, you know, and so
yeah.
I wonder if the guys are thinking that, you know, like,
I don't know. I mean,
they're all cute. I love them all.
They are. Yeah. I mean, I've talked to some of them about like the experience of being a male and a female narrator in romance is super different in a lot of ways. And sometimes as a woman, it's kind of hard because like we're not often, not all the time, but we're often not the person on the book who people are really excited about. Do you know what I mean? It's like the guy is the dessert and we're like the fibery meal that you have to eat first.
You're the required vegetable.
We're the broccoli, yeah. The Metamucil, and then he's the molten lava cake, which is totally fine, but also like can kind of get you down sometimes. Do you know what I mean? When you put your heart and soul into these things and then you're not what people are excited about. So that is a challenging thing sometimes, I think. And it's that's not to say anyone needs to change what they like about these books, because these books are largely for women. And when I listen to these books, I'm more excited about the guy too. Do you know what I mean? Like that's they're sexy books, and that's the sexy part.
Yeah.
So that's not to say that's a problem or that needs to change, but that is a complicated thing that's sometimes tough to see how much the industry is focused on the male narrator. For female narrators, sometimes tough. For male narrators, I think what you're saying is right, that is a big, being a sex symbol
Yeah.
is a real double-edged sword, right?
Yep.
Because it feels great to have people saying such nice things about you and obsessing about you, but then also you wonder, well, would they really feel that way about the real you? Like, or no, you know? And so I know some guys choose not to come to conferences because they don't want to
break the fantasy.
Yeah, they don't want to like spoil that illusion. And it's not like I know all the male narrators, like no one is like hideous. Do you know what I mean? Like there's not like we're not hiding any trolls.
Yeah.
It's just like listeners build them up.
Yeah, they're
so
not all
high.
3,
No.
built and sexy and alphas and billionaires.
No, yeah, they're regular people who act all kinds of ways. Yeah, and I think that is a weird thing for the guys to make decisions based on other people's fantasies versus their real self. As a woman, I don't really worry about that, and partly that's because I'm, I don't know, I'm okay. I'm old enough now to be like okay with the way I look, and I'm lucky in some ways, and I feel fine about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I'm anyone's fantasy, and they're going to freak out if don't look the way they thought. But I think it is a little different and more sensitive for the guys. So there's more love, but also a bigger burden of expectations.
Yeah. Well, I think also too, we as listeners, because like you said, the genre is written more for women. They tend to be a bit more harsher on the heroine versus the hero.
A bit?
Significantly. I was trying to be nice. I mean, there's some people out there that will forgive anything of the guy. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
I know.
I'm like, he's lucky he's still breathing.
Right. Right.
But heaven forbid she did not ask him that one question that would have solved everything.
I know.
All her faults.
I know. We're all products of our unbalanced society. And in these fantasies, the heroes really get a pretty loose rein for bad behavior.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. To put it mildly in some.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? Yeah. Yeah, to put it mildly. Yeah.
Yeah, but I find that fascinating, like completely fascinating how I'm one that I will always make sure that my reviews are equal. If I'm reading about the guy, I'm going to read about the girl. If there's something that needs to be created to, critique. Politely, I will say it.
Yeah.
Because there's a nice way to say different things, people. You don't have to be an asshole to review a freaking book, okay?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's also, and this is something that when I first started doing more romance, I was sometimes upset by certain lines being crossed, or books where like the guy really behaves very poorly, like he really doesn't treat her well, and then he does, or things that now would be like actionable. Take that to HR. Like your boss can't do that at work. And there are still certainly things where I things I won't do because I don't like I wouldn't do a non-consensual book. But short of that, like fantasy is fantasy, and all of us, not to get into any specifics about my personal sexual fantasies, Viviana, but all of us, all of us imagine things that we wouldn't want in real life, really. Do you know what I mean? Like there's things that are exciting to think about, but like if that was real, no, like that would be horrible, but that doesn't mean it's a horrible fantasy. So I think I've really broadened my horizons in terms of like appreciating books that if they were real would be problematic, but in fantasy are great. And so I think in terms of heroes' bad behavior, some of that falls into that category where you're like, yeah, in real life, no. but but for the purposes of this fantasy, yes, you can be a real piece of shit and it'll work. Yeah.
You're lucky you're rich. Yeah, but I think also too that from that topic, as far as being a fantasy, it has allowed, and I've seen it, and I've rather not seen it so much as heard or read the conversations when it comes down to people about saying, hey, I didn't know this was something you could do, and I highlighted it, and I gave it to my
You've
partner.
seen it? What kind of weird stuff do you watch, Viviana? You go to swingers parties?
No.
I know, but me too.
Yeah.
Like, it gives you ideas,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes you feel things that maybe you liked but thought was weird.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, oh no,
I'm not
a lot of people like that. It's a big, wide, weird world out there, and it's all fine. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think it's from that perspective, I love that romance genre has provided that safety net
I do too.
to listeners and readers as far as the different things that you can do. Just keep it legal.
Keep it legal and consensual. Let's say legal and consensual between adults. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So now that you've been narrating for so many years now, and you've had, I think Audible is saying that you have, I know that Audible sometimes is finicky, and they've been having a couple of glitches. So as of today.
You mean, how many books have I done?
Yeah. Well, under Emma, you've done, Audible is saying you have 100, and 92 of them are romance.
Really? What are the? Oh, the other ones are like sci-fi for another.
Probably fantasy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Different how people categorize things differently.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I've done about like 225 total, probably. I don't know. A lot of books.
Yeah.
A lot of books.
Is there an author that you're or a narrator that you're like, I can't wait to work with them, or this is my dream?
Oh. I don't know. I feel like in romance, I've gotten to work with all the people I want to work with, and I look forward to working with them more. I'd love, and I feel like all the women say this, I'd love more opportunities to work with the female narrators, but it just doesn't happen that often. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. I think there's a lot of authors I'd love to work for, but it's too many to pick. I can't do it. I can't do it, and I won't.
And that's it. That's what she said. So when you're not working and producing and narrating all these books, what do you do for fun?
What? I don't understand what you're about. I'm slang. There's a time other than that, do you say? Recently, like, nothing. I'm working too much. I don't have fun. I just work. I started jogging again recently. That was good. What do I do for fun? I really like animal rescue, which I know sounds like not that fun a lot of the time, but like I've gotten really into, as as people who know me will make fun of me for, like, wild bird rescue in New York. Like, there's a lot of hurt birds that need to be taken to a rehabber. So I do that. But that doesn't sound like fun.
You like doing that, so that's fun for you. So that's
it's not like it feels good. It feels good to do animal rescue stuff. Oh, dude, I don't know. I just need a work less. There's all this stuff I want to do. Like, I want to write. I want to see my friends more often. I want to go to more theater. But I have been working a lot to bring the people the audiobooks.
Which we love.
I need a better balance in my life.
Yeah, you do. That was something that I am striving for this year, is to get out a little bit more and do something that I've never done before.
Like what?
So I've been dying to do something like classes. I can be very artsy, but I don't want to be self-taught via YouTube. So you know how they have, I did it years ago where you did, you made something out of clay.
Yeah. I would love to do that.
Yeah. Or you already have something made and then you colored it and you did all this
paint
stuff.
it.
Yeah, painted. And there's
that sounds fun.
Yeah, and there's one here now that does like the planks, like the wood that you like, the wood signs. So because when you go to Ross or one of the other stores, you're like, oh, I like that, but if they tweaked it, or a different color that doesn't match the house, I'm like, well, maybe I should just do a class and just, do my
Yeah. I got into refinishing furniture for a
Mm-hmm.
while, like refinishing mid-century furniture, because I like had some that I had inherited from my grandparents, and that stuff is so satisfying because
Yeah.
you like make it how you want it, and then you
Mm-hmm.
can be like, "Look at this thing I made! Isn't it awesome? Tell me nice things about myself."
Well,
I was really into baking for a while, kind of for that reason, like really elaborate cakes, because then it's really nice to be like, "Look at what I did," and
mm-hmm.
feel proud.
Yeah. Well, I did a lot of refurbishing too. It's funny that you mentioned that. I would go to the thrift shops or to the vintage stores and grab something that was not in the best condition and
Yeah,
have revamped it. So I've done a bunch of pieces in the house, and to the point where I'm like, I'll do it. Oh, this piece is awesome. Look at the legs on that chair.
yeah.
It's sitting in the garage. Um,
Well,
yeah, the
next
intent was there.
project.
Yeah, exactly. And but yeah, cooking too is fun. I know, but that for me, I love it when I do like a meal or desserts and then I watch the people eat in the
Mhm.
sense of just to see their reaction.
Totally. It's
Yeah.
for me, it's no fun if it's just for me. If it's for
Mhm.
me, I'll have like a peanut butter sandwich or
Mhm.
popcorn and a giant block of cheese. Like I don't care at all. But if it's like an event, then it's good.
Mhm. Yeah, it's always fun that way. Cool. So see, we do. I did not know that about the furniture.
Yeah, I just got, like mid-century modern design,
Mhm.
right? Like I just got super into it because it's like what my grandparents were European, my grandfather's Norwegian, my grandmother was Dutch. And so they like had all this awesome stuff, like these like molar chairs that I needed to like learn how to reweave the seats out of paper cord and all this stuff. It's
Wow.
awesome. I love it. I love crafts, but living in New York, like you don't have a lot of room. Like if I had a garage, I would love to learn how, and this is like such a non-sexy conversation. I'm sorry. I would love to learn how to reupholster. Like I want to upholster a chair. Like, wouldn't that be amazing? Like old wingback chairs. And
Yes, I
also
have two.
then your cat, like I have cats and I can't have nice things because I love my cats more than my furniture and they wreck everything. But if you could redo it yourself, then there's like no limit to what you could have. And you could just,
Yeah,
that's
I
very
feel you, girl. I did a
my
bench.
fantasy.
Yeah, I did a
A
bench.
bench?
Yeah, and it's a straight line. That's why I could do it.
That
So
sounds awesome.
I did a bench. So I painted it, and then I did the fabric for the reupholstering of it. But again, it was a straight line. But I have these.
Don't sell yourself short. I'm sure it's beautiful. And you finished it, right?
Yeah,
Like it's a
yes,
big deal.
that's one of the things that is done. But I have these chairs in my office that I'm like, oh, you have such a gorgeous body, and or the legs and stuff.
You
But I'm
have
like, I
such
am
a
such a
gorgeous
gorgeous.
body. Those
Yeah.
legs, my God.
Yeah, I think I was at a store and I said that out loud and I had people next to me looking at me. The chair people, the
She's a
chair.
chair fetish. What's wrong with that?
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
weird world.
Yeah. No, man, but they only have that curve. I like the older furniture. I think the
Mhm.
newer model stuff is just way too modern. It feels like something's missing, like a personality is missing.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
totally.
so that's when it comes out. I just have not gotten adventurous enough to reupholster these chairs and completely, utterly. My fear is fucking them up and not
Well,
finishing. So,
yeah,
so that
believe in
might be
you.
a class. Yeah, that might be a class I'll take where I'll start something that's not a straight line because I've done chairs as well, like dining room chairs,
Mhm.
just the cushion part and the painting and stuff like that. But not done anything with curves on it or anything. One day we'll do
Well,
that.
have me over.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Well, you
I'll
should.
just take a quick flight down,
Yep.
and we'll spend a weekend doing your furniture.
Awesome.
If I ever have a weekend where I'm not working, that
Yeah, well,
is.
hey, I already offered to ship you my puppy. Um, he's not listening to that you don't pee inside the house. Um,
Mm, just try explaining it to him more clearly in words. I'm sure it'll
yeah, but
work.
then he gives me that look like, you love me. So,
That's when you have to harden your heart and
yes,
stick to the consistent routine.
yes, so that's what we're doing on that.
Okay, good luck.
Speaking of, yeah, I know. I'll catch you up on later on that.
Okay.
I have puppy class at 8 o'clock today, so
Oh,
so I'll tell you how that goes. Um, So on the show, I love playing a game with my guests. It's part of getting to know you better, and also, honestly, it's to put you in the spot a little bit.
okay. Consider me in the spot,
But yeah.
in the
So
hot seat.
yes. So it's would you rather. So
Okay.
as you know, so I'll give you two options of one or the other, and then you'll have to pick between those two. Feel free to pull a Shane. And we
And cheat? Yeah.
no. See, with Shane,
Both. Neither. This other thing you didn't say. Is that
no,
what he does?
he explains the why.
So, Viviana, no. I just okay, I will.
Okay. All right.
I will.
Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather be an unimportant character in the last movie you saw, or an unimportant character in the last book you read?
Oh. Like read for pleasure or for work?
You pick.
Book I read.
Okay.
Because the last movie I saw was the documentary Honeyland, which is beautiful, but like, oh, pretty depressing. Like, I cried my eyes out. I don't want to be in
Yeah.
that one.
Got it. So would you rather have to read aloud every word you read, or sing everything you say out loud?
Oh, read. I love singing, but that's exhausting.
Yeah. I was like, well, you kind of do a lot of the
I do.
reading anyways
I do.
so
Yeah, I don't like read a lot with my eyes that I don't also say with my mouth.
yes,
So
multi-talented there.
weird. Yeah. I can do two things.
Hey, that people think it's easy. It's not.
It's not easy.
It's not easy. I can attest to that. No, it's not. I don't like reading out loud. There's a reason why I am not a narrator. Would you rather always be 10 minutes late or always 20 minutes early?
I mean, I always am 10 minutes late, pretty much. So that, I guess. Although the other one, obviously better. But for being realistic, I'll just stick with what I am, which is late. I saw someone wearing a shirt that said, "Sorry, I'm late. I didn't want to come."
Oh, yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah, I need to get that shirt. And then I had to edit it. I didn't want to come because I was reading a good book.
That's good too.
Like that, or listening to a book.
That's good too.
Yeah. That's why my friends are like, you need to hang out more outside. I'm like,
No, I have my books in my little dark cave that's comfortable and that I know. Why would I leave?
And I'm comfortable and I can eat what I want. I can drink what I want. And no one should object. Would you rather know the history of every object you touch, or be able to talk to animals?
Oh, talk to animals, my God. That's not, and I do talk to animals a lot, but I would like them to talk back if that's part of this. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that is, I mean, what kind of monster would pick the history? Like, come on.
If you're not an animal lover, not everybody
Then you're
does.
a sociopath.
Yeah, it's like we can't be friends, huh? If you're not an animal lover.
I understand being afraid of dogs, maybe, but people who are like, no, I feel nothing. It's like, well, what's
wrong with you?
Get help, bud. Who hurt you?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, what do you mean you don't like animals?
I know. I think it's a red flag.
Yeah.
It's a red flag.
Yeah, when I saw, I'm like, oh yeah, I think she'll talk to the animals. I would much rather talk to animals too at that point. I sometimes like rather talk to the animals than I do people. So
me too.
Yeah. Last question. Would you rather never have to clean a bathroom again, or never have to do dishes again?
Bathroom. I don't really mind, but it's just a lot more work. Dishes.
Having to caulk anything.
I would. Oh my God! I would love to caulk my tub. I would love to get my hands on a nice thick tube of caulk. In my fantasies about DIYing my home, but unfortunately, my bathroom is it's a rental and it's just so gross that I put shower curtains all around the tub because the tile is like paint's peeling off the tiles. So it's just like shower curtains. So I feel like I'm in like a little Dexter kill room when I'm in there, just like surrounded by shower curtains.
Now that's a visual.
The sad scene. Yeah. The rest of my apartment's pretty good. The bathroom, no ma'am. No ma'am.
Yeah, that's the problem with renting. I mean, it is. I got to the point when I was renting, when I was like, you know what? Fuck this shit. I'm going to paint. And I know that I have to paint, back to boring white when I leave. But for the time that I'm here, I'm going to make it, pleasurable for me while I'm here.
Yeah.
But that one's difficult, to fix when you're not the owner.
I know. So when I moved in this apartment in May, and I painted the whole thing right before I moved in. And because I needed accompaniment while I was painting, I was like, I should listen to an audiobook. And I hear those are good. And so I listened to Serena Bowen's Hymn because
Uh-huh.
no one will shut up about it in oral fixation. And I mean, in a good way. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, it's like, I friends with those dudes. And I was like, you know what? I'll give it a go. And I listened to the whole thing. It was awesome. I got my apartment painted and I listened to a good, sexy book. And I pretended that I didn't know them and lost myself in the story.
Yeah. I was gonna say it must be hard for you. And I know sometimes with me, I'm like, pretend you don't know them, pretend you don't know them. I'm like, yeah, you can't be that sexy bird, you know?
Yeah.
Is it hard for you
I
when
think
you're listening, or are you just like, nah, you get over
I
it
mean,
after a while?
I don't listen that much.
Mhm.
I think, yeah, it's hard to, when you know someone really well, it's hard to put that aside. But at the same time, like when people are really good,
Mhm.
they're good. Do you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
they tell a story well. And it's like, yeah, if you're friends with actors, it's harder to watch them in movies and stuff, but for the first 10 minutes and then you're just watching the movie, you know? So I
Yeah.
think it's the same way. Like if people are good, they're good. And you're going to get lost in that story, whether you know them or not. If you, if you can convince yourself that whatever the story you're listening to is like, you know, if you can believe in Star Wars, where with all of the crazy things there, like you can certainly forget that you know someone for 6 hours while you're listening to a book.
Yeah.
Like
True.
of just to
Yeah. No,
how well you
agree.
narrator.
Mhm.
Um, it's fun.
Yep.
5 stars.
Yeah. Before we go, can you tell us a little bit about what you're currently working on, if you can share, and what
Sure, some
comes out
things.
next?
Yeah, so I can't tell you what I'm working today, other than that it's a new author, not a new author at all. I'm really excited about it. Other things I have been working on though, that I'm pumped about are I just worked on Jessica Hawkins' White Monarch trilogy, which is coming out soon with Brian Polino and Christian Fox and Lance Field. And that was awesome. Uh, I have a couple Rosalind James books coming out soon. One called Just Say Christmas, which is like a late Christmas book that I loved. And then another one that I'm about to record. I'm set to do some Kim Lorraine books with Aaron Sheplock, which I am about to get in the studio for in the next couple weeks. What else? What else? What else? I don't know. I've been working so hard that all the books are like mushing together in my mind.
Mm.
um, I could look at my calendar. That's a good idea.
Yeah, I was checking Audible, and they have nothing as of right now up for like pre-orders. Everything has already been published.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird because you work on these things and then they don't come out for so long.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just did another Tegan Hunter book.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know which ones I can talk about and
Yeah, I
can't.
know.
So
That's
just
why I always
pretend
ask,
I
just like,
like think about all the exciting things that I can't tell you
yeah.
and get excited for the things I can, which are definitely that Jessica Hawkins trilogy is incredible. And I think that's coming out in like March. So
Cool.
keep an eye out for that.
Yeah.
And then for TBD, oh, and I've got some Lauren Blakely projects in the pipeline, which are
Mm-hmm.
always a fucking delight.
Yep.
And I just did one for her with Zach Weber that I think just came out called The Second Chance Plan.
Mm-hmm.
Check it out. I think it's on Audible Escape.
I think so too. Mm.
Free for all of you.
Yeah. See, the way that when it comes down to like that Kindle Unlimited and the Escape, I I kind of cringe when people say, "Yeah, it's free." I'm like, "No, people, it's not free.
Yeah.
You have to pay for the subscription." I mean, with Audible in general, you have to pay, but there's an additional cost. But for me, it's worth it because it allows me to discover new authors and narrators,
Yeah.
and
And I
stuff like
mean
that.
it's not free, but it's like
Hmm.
cheap as hell.
Oh yeah,
Like to the point where those books don't often pay off for
I
uh
know.
but they're in there for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Like at this point, like when it was new, I feel like some people kind of thought it was a different thing and wished that they hadn't put their books into it. But at
Hmm.
this point, if it's in there, it's because the rights holder wants it to be. So I don't think
Yeah.
anyone needs to feel bad about that. Do you know, like there are multiple reasons people put books in there and they're all
Yeah.
good and make sense. So
Yeah.
no one should feel conflicted about getting
one
it for
from
cheap. Yeah, because that was a choice made by the people who hold the purse strings, and it made sense to them.
Yeah.
So
But
enjoy.
and at the end of the day, there's always a way to promote it. And and if people are listening and it's a new time, first time that you're listening either to the narrator or the author, and you're going, oh my God, you
Totally.
have to pick up this book.
Yeah, totally.
That's another person that's going to get something. Or if another book in another series isn't part of the writing style.
Yeah,
That's what that book. So
that's what kills me when people are like, how could they do that? They don't put the whole series in. It's like, yeah, they didn't put the whole series in because you need to buy at least one. Like, you need to buy one so they can feed their families.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, just if you love it that much, it's worth it then, girl. Come on, get
totally,
it. Yeah,
totally.
I'm that enabler.
Good. This is a good addiction. There are way worse addictions than audiobooks.
Yeah. And I always advocate for the libraries too, in case.
Totally.
Sometimes, I get it. It is, it's a hobby, yes, but it can be expensive. But
totally.
You can still totally enjoy it and share the love and use our libraries, and those are fun times.
They're all good. They're all good ways to. They all contribute to the industry.
Exactly.
And the way people churn through romance audiobooks, like no one could buy that many books. Do you know what I mean? Like, especially people who listen on a fast speed and go through a book a day. Like that'll empty your bank account real quick.
Yeah. Some people were like, you haven't read that many books. I mean, you haven't listened to so many books. I'm like, because I'm the girl that actually likes listening to them at their normal regular speed.
And we love you for it.
Yeah. And because you guys have good voices. Come on. And it's just so I don't go through them as fast. And sometimes you have that whole like book coma or like God, I'm totally blanking out what it is.
You mean like a food coma? Like a hangover?
Book hangover. Thank you. Book hangover. When the book has been that good and you're going, I don't know what to pick up next. It's going to be
you need to let it settle for a little bit. Yeah.
So there's sometimes where I've been fortunate enough to have really good books lately. So I'm like, I need a moment.
That's good. What's something that you've listened to recently that you loved?
Ooh.
I'm not with me. Do you know what I mean? I'm like really asking you. That's not a question about me.
As I run over to my Audible and log in, because again, similar to you, because there's so many, sometimes I'm like, wait, what? And either I'll recognize it because of the narrator or the cover. Let's see. Oh, okay. So I read, it's by Lily Archer, and it's called A Face Captive. And it was an interesting concept where it's almost like not novellas, but vignettes and stuff. So she took the story of one couple and broke it into four places. So there are cliffhangers, and then the best friend of the hero of the first section is also then the hero of the next section, and that kind of did in one arc. Overall, it's narrated by Shane.
Nice.
And
I hear he's pretty good. That guy.
He is. And Mackenzie Cartwright.
Oh, I love her.
She's great.
She's such a nice person too. Like she's lovely.
Yeah. But what I loved about this book was, or the series, or whatever, however you guys want to classify it, is the performance that these two did. They completely outdid themselves. I knew that Shane East was good. Like I totally always recommend him. Always say, hey, he's an awesome narrator. He's a great performer and stuff like that. But this series was like, damn, you're good. Like that extra bit.
Did it let him like flex his acting muscles a little bit?
Totally. Yes. Yeah. Very flexing from that perspective.
As opposed to just his alpha muscles.
Yeah. And stuff like that. So that's where I've been on it looks okay. Yeah. I'll admit it. It's been a Shane East kick lately. Immortal.
They're worse kicks. He's a really good, as you know,
I don't know.
a good narrator and a good guy.
Yeah. So the other book that I most recently was The Immortal Flames, which is the Excalibur duet by Kim Lorraine.
Right.
So that was the first set of books that I read by her, which were great and things like that. So those are two then. And I have a list of so many books that I need to catch up on. But, yeah, but so many books, not enough time.
Maybe you can listen to them while you're refinishing your chairs.
Yeah, one day. Yeah,
get it done.
Yeah, I'd much rather sometimes talk to you guys, like, right?
Oh,
So it works out.
oh,
I'm fortunate that way, and hopefully listeners are enjoying these podcasts and these episodes to get to know you guys better
I
and
hope so. I
yeah.
feel like I always feel like when I do these things, I'm either really rambly and just talk about like dumb shit no one cares about but me, or I'm like really Pollyanna-ish and just I'm like, I'm just grateful to be in this industry with all these wonderful friends, but like I am.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's all I got. Everybody is really friends.
Mhm.
Like when we're like, you know, screwing around with each other on Twitter or whatever, Facebook, like we're also messaging each other and like seeing each other in real life. Like that's real. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not just like uh and it's just shocking how kind and generous and fun the narrator community is.
Mhm.
It's not normal. I think we all feel pretty lucky to have landed here.
Yeah, it's an interesting group. We all like with anything we have our really good eggs and we have some of those rotten apples.
Hmm.
But in general, like it's a percentage. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
If you guys weren't as awesome as you guys are to to partake and participate and be involved with the listeners, I wouldn't do it. And the same thing if the listeners
It
weren't
wouldn't be
interested in
fun.
doing it. No, it
Yeah.
wouldn't. It would be a freaking job. It's like, oh, I have to talk to this Emma lady.
You're
Um,
right. Yeah, and if people acted like I feel like in other acting worlds, sometimes people act like they're doing you a favor
oh
by
yeah.
giving you their time. Do you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
like, no, like I'm just really glad to be here. Like, and I think it might also be because we're all so sort of isolated that
Mhm.
any contact with nice people is like, oh yes, more. I would, I would love to talk for hours.
Yeah.
That could be a factor. Just
Yeah, that could
saying.
be. Yeah, it's been.
Really all in solitary confinement.
Yeah. Oh no. But I mean, again, the community is so awesome, and both from listeners and the performers. You guys, again, wouldn't be
Really
doing this
good.
if it wasn't for you guys. Um,
Mm.
so that's always a good thing.
Well, we probably wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't for you, because no one would be buying all the
The
books.
books, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great relationship that we
It
all have
is
with each
mutually
other.
beneficial.
Yes, totally. Um, so thank you so much, Emma, for taking the time to chat with me
It has
today.
been my pleasure.
It was so fun. I always love talking to you. It's always
I
so
love talking to
fun.
you too. When will I see you next in real life?
I know there's some couple of things that were on my radar, and then life happened, and then I had to take
I
them off. But
know.
now I'm looking
Life
at it
is a real
again.
pain in the butt.
Yeah, and here's the thing. In case you hadn't known this already, at this point, the locations that I picked to go to like events and book signings are based more on who the narrator is going to be
Aw.
there. Because,
Aw.
yeah. Well, again, I feel like the authors are more available most of
Mhm.
the time because they're either with Facebook groups or other kind of
Mhm.
signings, and they go to more things. Whereas you
Yeah, they do.
guys, to get you to come out of the woodwork, out of your
It's
group,
hard.
it's
It's
like,
hard.
dude, seriously, like, well, I'll feed you. I will buy your drink if you come to this place. So yeah, I don't know what I'm doing this year as far as events go. I might have a wish list, that's for sure. Like Edinburgh would be phenomenal.
I know. I think I'm gonna go. I
You
was talking to
should.
Joe Arden,
Mm-hmm.
and he's gonna go, I think, and I think I might go. I
Yeah.
think it might be really fun.
Yeah.
And
From an
then
experience, period. I mean,
yeah, like, just as a life vacation, like
uh-huh.
a not I wouldn't go because I necessarily think it will pay off career-wise, but I could write it off.
Good. There's a
And it would
perk.
um, and I think a bunch of us will also go to Vegas next year because it's the last Vegas, right?
Which Vegas? The Love in Vegas, is it?
Y I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is it this year or next year that you think it's the last one?
I thought this coming year was the last one. I
Yeah.
thought this past year was the penultimate, which for
Yeah.
a really long time I thought meant ultimate, which was embarrassing to realize.
We all have that one word. No
Yeah.
worries. Yeah, I've been eyeing that one. And again, it would definitely be. I tend to stick to the authors that I love because again, I know
Mhm.
they're going to take care of me.
Yeah,
So I'm
totally.
going through the list and I'm going, I don't know you. I don't know you. I don't know
I
you.
know, and the
I've
list
heard of
changes
you.
because people like
Yeah.
life gets in people's way.
Yeah, exactly. And last year I knew a lot more authors, but this year I'm just waiting for the list of narrators to come out to see if it's going to be worth me going to Vegas, to go all the way out there for it,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So I'm going to sit down hopefully this weekend, if not next, and kind of sit and look at what's out there. Otherwise, I may just start saying, "Hey, I'm thinking about going to New York.
Yeah, do that.
When are you available? I'll buy
Come
you a
to
drink."
come to New York and hang out with all of us here.
Yeah, that would be fun. Oh, I was so wanting to go to the
The
Audi.
Audis.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be fun, but it's really like an industry event. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like,
Mhm.
it's sort of like everybody is seeing all their friends, and you get, like, 5 seconds with everybody because everybody's there. So it's a blast, but I don't know that it would be super fun for someone who didn't know a ton of people already, and it
Yeah.
sold out in, like, a hot minute.
It did. Yeah, and I know sometimes some of the nominees were not told that they were
I know.
nominated, and now they
I
can't
know.
go. So I'm
I
hoping that
know.
maybe between now and then something will be modified or adjusted, and I also really do hope that it is being broadcast because it wasn't last year, and I was like,
Oh, it wasn't?
dude, no, I
Oh,
don't think it was, or
I
there were
bet
some
it will be.
technicals. Yeah, I'm hoping to because the rest, like I know Felicia and I were like, we want our wine and we want to see who wins, so we can do our graphics and then just like point that, in social media and all that fun stuff
Yeah.
and
Maybe we
cheerleader for
should
you.
we should all try to do more, like, live videos or something too.
Yeah, that would be
But
fun.
again, it's like a night where you don't wanna do a ton of promo, you just wanna, like, see your friends and celebrate. I don't know, you gotta
Exactly,
balance.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's where I was going, like, I guess from us perspective too, sometimes when we go to these events, it's like, oh, okay, so I want to hang out with you, but I know that you also need to mingle, and I know that you also have to, do some promo work, so I kind of feel awkward. Um,
No. Yeah.
so it's just one of those like, just tell me when you're done. I'll meet you at the bar. or
That
in,
sounds good.
or hang out somewhere and just, chill. Because I'm
Yeah.
more of a chilling.
After party.
Yeah,
Quiet
after party.
after parties.
Yes. Stuff like that.
Well, whenever I see you, it
Yes.
will be great, and I look forward to it.
Thank you. And if you're not already following Emma on social media, you guys should. She is on
I'm on there.
Facebook. Yeah. You have
I'm on
a,
all the
I was gonna
things.
say, yeah, you have all of
No,
them.
not
So,
Instagram. I'm
no,
only on Instagram under my real name.
yeah.
And it's not don't follow what it said about books, it's just pictures of my cats.
I love cats, so it's fine. But no, yeah, but definitely I know that you're on Twitter, definitely on Facebook. And I know that you have a
Yes.
couple of tracks on SoundCloud too, from Reels and stuff.
Yeah, I
So if you
mostly just
haven't,
use those to, like, to have to link to on my I don't
mhm,
like, I don't update that, so
yeah. But
sorry.
don't, no, it's okay. But
Um,
you don't have to go hunting for the links. I will give them to you guys. They'll be in the description.
yay.
So you guys don't have to worry about hunting, but definitely do the following. And we hope you've
No hunting,
enjoyed.
just gathing.
Yeah,
Just
I
gathering of links.
exactly. I much rather give you all the stuff because I'm like, just give them to me. More likeliness that they'll actually do it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Audiobook Lovin Podcast. Please make sure to follow us on our social media platforms, subscribe to the Viviana Enchantress of Books newsletter, and don't forget to submit your this or that questions for Shane to give us a bunch of different reasons as to why he likes it. But no, love him. And until next time, thank you for listening. Thank you, Emma.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for joining us on the Audiobook Lovin Podcast, hosted by Viviana Enchantress of Books. For links and more info about today's episode or the Audiobook Lovin series, visit vivianaenchantressofbooks.com. Please consider leaving a review wherever you listen to the podcast if you enjoyed today's episode. Until next time, happy listening.